captured by the enemy, being subjected to the most fiendish torture ever devised by man. The water torture. A drop of water on the forehead every minute for 300 gallons. 300 gallons, Mr. Brown, would you believe it?
That's pretty hard to believe.
After the sin of the golden calf, Moshe goes back up on the mountain to try to convince God to forgive the Jewish people. Moshe says, God, yes, indeed, the Jewish people did this great sin in building a god of gold. Why did they have to mention to God that they had built a god of gold? Rashi, the greatest of the commentators, explains that Moshe's hinting to God, God, your excellency, your lordship, king of the world, I have to point out that it's kind of sort of your fault. You can imagine God raising an eyebrow, as it were. My fault? What Moshe's hinting to God is, God, you gave them all that gold. What do you expect? And Rashi quotes the analogy that's brought down by the sages of the Talmud, that it's akin to a father spiffing up his son, putting a bag of gold coins around his neck, and then placing him in the entrance of a house of ill repute. How could he expect that son not to sin? Now that's uncomfortable as a strategy, blaming God, and it harkens back to a very uncomfortable passage in the Torah, right at the beginning of the Torah, when God commands Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, not to eat from that specific tree in the garden, and they do. And God confronts Adam, and he says, the woman that you gave to me, she gave me the fruit. He blames God for giving him Eve, for giving him Chava, which is outrageous. That doesn't work out well for for Adam. So why does Moshe try the same gambit now? And why does it work out well for Moshe? Well, there are two key differences. Number one, in the first instance, Adam, the first man himself, had sinned. He had to take responsibility rather than shifting blame. Whereas in this instance, Moshe hadn't sinned. He hadn't been part of the sin of the golden calf. And second, and more importantly, when Adam blamed God, he was a kafui tov. He was an ingrate. God had given him the ultimate gift, his wife. And instead of saying thank you, he was throwing it back at God, blaming God. Whereas here, Moshe, alone among the people, had not received any gold in Egypt. Because while everyone else was going and taking gold and silver from their neighbors in Egypt, Moshe was busy with something else. He was busy finding and then carrying the bones of Joseph, Yosef. But the eagle-eyed viewers out there will say, no, that's not true. The commentators say that there was another group that also didn't get gold in Egypt. Moshe's tribe, the Levium, the Levites. Because the gold was meant as slave reparations. And the Levites had never been enslaved. But as Maxwell Smart used to like to say,
would you believe a quart?
Would you believe the Levites, the Levium, also didn't sin? Alone among the Jews. They were not involved at all in the sin of the golden calf. It's painful for me to talk about this as a firstborn because that's when the firstborn sons lost their jobs. We were supposed to be the Kohanim. We were supposed to be the priests, but we participated in the sin of the golden calf. And so we had to give up that incredible right, that privilege, that treasure to the Levium who hadn't sinned. So Moshe is pointing out the evidence to God. Take a look. Me, my tribe, we didn't get any gold. We didn't sin. What's the takeaway for us? I don't think the takeaway is a lesson in how to talk to God, how to argue to God, how to blame or when to blame or whom it's okay to blame. What could the lesson be? The people who got the gold sinned. The people who didn't. Maybe it's a lesson for us. In our day and age, many Jewish households and communities suffer not from poverty, some do, but many don't. They suffer from the opposite, what's been dubbed affluenza. How do we use that material success? When we have it, are our spiritual priorities still in order with God at the top? Or have we reordered them? Are we, unfortunately, building golden calves?
What if they came by once a day with a glass of water and an eyedropper?